Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another exciting edition of Reader's Magnet featured author interview. And we're streaming live on all our platforms. That's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And I'm your host, Rob Lambeth. And today we have a wonderful guest who is both an avid traveler and a passionate writer. After years of exploring the globe, he has woven his experiences into a captivating array of stories. And he also has an enchanting children's series, including titles like Midori, The World of Klim and Marek, and Basil, The Fireman Dragon, and among other stories that he has. Hey, if you want to check it out, though, it's available on Amazon, a large collection of books as well. And he is here to share his creative journey, insights into his work, and to discuss his first adult novel, Bella, Chronicles of a Karmic Dog. So everyone, please help me welcome Mr. John Rutherford. John, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks, Rob, and thanks for giving me the time to talk to everybody today.
Sure, no worries. So, John, thank you very much for joining us today. And again, welcome to the Hive. And so, to all of our viewers, though, and as you've seen, I've mentioned a couple of titles as well for his books. And he has, correct me if I'm wrong, John, that was 23 titles that you had published, correct?
23 are published on right now on my bookshelf. Correct.
Awesome. So there is a large and a plethora of books, though. If ever you are an avid reader and you love children's series as well, feel free to check it out. Though it's available on Amazon. Don't worry, I'll be plugging that later, guys, so you know where to go and where you can get copies of his book. But today, whole focus of what we have to have right now, though, especially with this conversation, is talking about his very first adult novel, which is Bella, Chronicles of a Karmic Dog. But John, before we move on, though, I just want to ask you because again, you've been traveling, you had a lot of stuff that you need to do. But so, could you tell us about your background and the journey that led you to become a writer?
Sure. I didn't start creative writing until I retired just a few years ago. So I was pretty busy. I had a kind of an interesting life, as you said, traveling. I used to work in the airline and travel business, and it took me and software development. So it took me and my family. We lived in different countries. So yeah, it was a privilege to get, and a great learning experience. So I really treasure those moments. But I started writing after my retirement, as I didn't really have the time. And it's an interesting. I started with children's stories at the beginning. But I branched out now with this first novel, which is adult genre. It's an interesting story. I actually started, the trigger point was I wrote stories for my grandchildren. They live in New York. And I used to write stories for them and their friends. And they enjoyed the stories. And I decided to publish the stories about these different characters, and yeah, it was really fun. And so it was later that as I decided to publish these stories, and by the time I was writing every day, I had this passion that was really there in creative writing, and ever since I've been practicing the art of writing and storytelling. So I entered some competitions as well. And I gained a lot of followers and some prizes nonetheless. So that also encouraged me to carry on. And yeah, there's always been the passion inside. It's been there for years. And I actually won some prizes at school for my writing years ago. But in working life, it was more, technical writing and strategy reports and things like that. Yeah, it wasn't until recently that I got back into creative writing. Children's stories is a great way to use, imagination and the art of storytelling. So yeah, that's how I started.
It was really it's talking about your journey though, and then you started writing after you retired. Because again, you told you that's the time you got time to start writing. But coming back with these books that you had though, I just want to ask you this question, and I'm just curious about this. Okay, were these characters in these children's series that you created, are they like part of a spark of inspiration though, or did you see someone like maybe your grandchildren, nephews, that you wrote the stories for? Did they were part of the inspiration of these characters? Like, this story is about this, and this story is about this certain person. Was there an inspiration behind it though, or it just came to you and you want to write it down?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first series that I wrote, you mentioned early, Midori, The
Hmm.
World of Clem and Marek. So
Hmm.
I wanted to write a story. I've read a lot of children's stories, obviously, for the grandchildren, reading to them at night and things like that. And I wanted to create a world like a theatre. I
Mm.
remember as a child, we used to go to pantomimes and Christmas shows and things like that. And I wanted to have a series that were more classical in context. So really, the world of Clem and Marek is a theatre stage,
Oh.
and the characters and the world is like isn't really. It is another world. There's a real world where and this other world of Clem and Marek where these other characters and lands live, but it's really theatre stage lighting and things like that, and the characters are classical. Most of the
Oh.
characters come from classical literature as well, because I thought that a lot of the children's stories that I read to my grandchildren, they didn't touch on the classical stuff, and I wanted to create that. There's nursery rhymes within the stories. It depends on the age of the reading age of the child, but it's intended for parents to read for their children in those quiet moments in the day or at night time when they go to bed.
Oh, so it's more of like reliving the bedtime story tradition, like
Yes.
reading stories too. Oh, okay, I really like the idea. Love it, love it, love it so
Yeah.
much.
There's morals. There's a moral
Mhm.
theme to a lot of the stories, and there's also a little there's educational
Mm.
context there in there. So it's there's a lot of information that even young children can pick up on, and I think and the moral is there as well. The morals are slightly hidden there as well for the children to understand.
Oh, awesome, awesome. You know what, Bajan, because right now, since we're talking about your previous books, like you wrote a lot of children's books here. It's a children's series, basically. And again, you had created your first adult novel, which is again the one we're talking about, Bella, Chronicles of a Karmic Dog. So just want to talk about this. And what was your initial spark or idea that led to its creation? Because again, from a children's books author, like children's series, you had evolved your writing style into going into an adult theme, adult novel. Like, what was the inspiration behind it, and
Well,
what made you start
I
it?
started. That's a good question as well. I started writing adult stories and entering them into competitions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different style, obviously, and it has to be a lot more, let's say, into more technical information, more descriptions and things like that. It's not for you're now writing for an adult audience, of course. And I got
Oh,
the feedback from the competitions because
oh,
it was all authors in these competitions, and it was a weekly submission by a prompt,
mm,
and then I gained the information from the other authors that my style of writing was appropriate for
oh,
adult genre, and so I practiced there for a while, and then I entered some competitions with an adult genre again. So I was gaining feedback and experience all the time, so that I could home in this different genre other than children into adults.
awesome. And I really love it though, because it started out as submitting these short stories, and eventually it turned out to be. So whenever the feedback came, it turned out something that you can really go for. If you don't mind sharing with the viewers as well, John, could you please describe the main themes or the messages that readers can expect from this book that you just
Yeah,
published?
sure. So it started out actually about the story of Bella, the dog,
Mm,
and so it started out with her story where she was in a farm in a
mhm,
farm life, and the breed of dog have these special gifts handed down generation upon generation.
mm,
So when she became pregnant with pups, um, the thieves actually abducted her and took her into they took her away to sell the pups,
Mhm.
but she escaped. But she fled into a wild forest,
Oh.
and there, even the wild animals didn't accept her at the beginning. They ambushed her, but then when they realised that she was pregnant, they they were kind and brought food to her and things like that. So in return, she
Mhm.
starts telling the story of her ancestors, and those ancestors with these special gifts. She can talk to the animals telepathically,
Mm.
and those stories are wrapped up in another weave about karma, kindness,
Oh.
humbleness, things like this. And
Mm.
then it tells the first of breed, because the dogs are bred for fox hunting originally, but they
Mhm.
didn't know that this breed actually had other gifts. And then it tells about the first story of the first of the breed, and then
Mhm.
it goes into different stories about the dogs being silent witnesses with huge and important characters and events in recent history. For
Oh.
instance, the first man and dog into space,
Oh,
or
okay.
the 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 um, the first sound machines where
Mm.
the dog was involved with the inventors and the entrepreneurs, or in the First World War, or the fall of the Berlin Wall,
Mhm.
or the Second World War, and so all that there are. It introduces the 12 laws of karma, and
Mm.
each 12 laws introduce an event and a character of huge significance in history.
Mm.
And all these dogs were just the silent witness with the main character or the event.
Wow. I really find it interesting, especially with the concept though, because I do know a lot of people love dogs though, but the take that we're having with this book has something that I can say that it has really a different take. It's not something that you see in typical dogs, like dog meets family and dog is happy, dog is abandoned, then gets picked up. But it has this a different sense though, which makes this book interesting. And it's something that I do know that a lot of people will be looking forward to see, especially for those people who love these types of genres of books. But John, coming back with the book though, because again, there is a touch of history coming up with dogs and how it's being passed on. So again, we're talking about Bella, who is makes sense right now. Chronicles of a Karmic Dog, talking about karma. But I just want to ask you specifically with this book: is your book advocating for a specific cause or agenda? And if so, what is it, and why is it essential for you as an author? Then.
Well, it brings in, introduces, the idea of cause and effect,
Hmm.
the,
Okay.
the causality, meaning that first of all, I don't think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there is good and bad karma, and the question of whether it's your choice, whether it's people's choice, or whether it's fate, is quite an interesting, topic, let's say. And the whole thing around cause and effect is a theme that goes through these stories. They are actual factual stories, obviously in recent history, but I've fictionalized them. I brought in like another view of the character and
Mm.
tried to then illustrate through the causality, law of causality, what cause and what effect these people, these famous people, actually went through, these dramas.
Mhm.
And in each chapter, each story, there is a drama. It was a fact in history, but I've put aside a fictional view of this to make it really interesting, as well as illustrate the laws of karma at the same time.
I love it. I love the what you're trying to advocate for this book. Really love it. And again, talking about this though, you had been a author for a lot of series, and now delving into the adult novel genre. But this is just one of my questions though, and one that I always end with all of my interviews, because I just want to ask you, John, especially that you have wrote a plethora of books, and now you are switching genres. It's not really a it's how do you say this? It's not you're not taking that fear of taking that first step into doing different genres. But is there any message that you want to leave to maybe people who are just afraid in switching genres and think that they're only good within the specific genre and want to dwell into different topics? Is there a message you want to leave them on,
Yeah.
maybe, let's say, something that can motivate them, or something like a message that they can take with them when it comes to them writing books?
Well, my little story is the following. When I entered these competitions,
Mm-hmm.
the genre of the competition may have been romance or
Mm-hmm.
horror or detective
Mm-hmm.
or many other, many genres. And I really didn't have the experience. I have life experience, but imagination and creation of going into this. But I did it because I wanted to test myself. I think
Mm.
everybody has to test themselves. Um, what's interesting now is that going into these different genres, which I've already started thinking about the next project, which could be science fiction, for instance,
Oh.
and I've explored that and gained feedback through these competitions. So I'm sort of testing myself, but I think it's important that I think it's important for myself that I'm tested with all these different topics and subjects, because I like to do a lot of research for books.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the children's books, I'm doing research, and it's important. I think I think it's something that's honourable in writing profession, that you should really try and, even if it's fictional, you have to try and keep to some sense in the storyline and things like that. So I would say that the following. It's all for me. It's challenging my, let's say, art.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. Let that out to all our viewers. Just try to process that. Okay, it's challenging your art. And I love that, John. Really love that. You know what? Again, there's something that I really love to say though. It's coming from what you're trying to indulge in this message, though. It's challenging your art. And for all of the future authors there who are not who are afraid in trying different genres, coming from you, and you've said it. Challenging your art is how you can make sure that you can evolve as a writer, and you have proved that, and you've now published your first adult novel. And again, so to all our viewers, and again, book lovers, be sure to grab a copy of John Rutherford's book, Bella Chronicles of a Karmic Dog, that's available through Amazon and Barnes& and Noble. And here's the perfect thing. If you want to know more about him and see some updates of his other books, feel free to drop a visit on his website. That's www.johnrutherfordbooks.com. Okay, that's www.johnrutherfordbooks.com. You know what, John? Thank you very much for joining us today. Really love it, and really love, and I really looking forward to see more books that you'll be creating in the future. So I think that Bella would be the start of something new, and I'm looking forward to more books you'll be publishing in the future. Okay.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks for the time, and thanks to everybody listening or
Yes.
looking at this.
Looking at this video. So, great, this live interview, though, to all our viewers again, once again, this is John Rutherford, author of the book Bella Chronicles of a Karmic Dog. And again, to all our viewers, thanks for tuning in. And remember that every ending is just a new beginning in the world of stories. May your reading adventures be endless and your imagination boundless. And as we say here at Reader's Magnet, we share your stories with the world. Have a good one, and see you next time.
Goodbye.